I ran to town the other night to get some diesel for the tractor, and my screen locked up in the truck here. I think they call it an infotainment system. But that got me thinking how these newer vehicles you think are going to be so reliable, and I swear every one of them has an issue. Now this has been a pretty good truck. It's a 22 Ram 1500. Actually, I never had an issue with it until it had a recall on it, something about the backup camera turning off while you were backing up. And so I had it in the dealer getting an oil change, and I went ahead and had them take care of that recall, and all it was a software update. Well, that's when my problem started. I had never had that issue where the camera shut off. Now, once in a while, that camera will shut off when I'm backing up. And sometimes that infotainment system will just lock up and I can't do anything. Now, the other night when it happened, I had to come home and shut the truck off and then start it back up, and then I could use the screen again. But other times it'll, like the air will come on, the heat, everything will come on full blast, and there's nothing I can do. I just have to live with it for a minute or so, and then I can shut everything off. That's just something you wouldn't think you'd have to deal with a newer vehicle. But when I knew I was going to try to retire early, I decided I wanted to have a newer vehicle. I had a 2018 F-250 that was a really good truck. I bought it brand new for $38,000. F-250 with the 6.2 liter V8. And now I never had the first issue with that truck. Now it was an XL. It didn't have all this fancy stuff on it. It had like a little screen with a backup camera, and that was it. It had the vinyl seats, vinyl floor, which was great. I could just hose it out if I wanted to. Now this one has a fancier interior and everything. I really liked that truck, but it, as Gail put it, it rode like a school bus, and it did. It was a rough riding truck. It felt like you were in a truck. And so I decided to get something updated, and I went with a 22 F-150. I'd always been a Ford guy. That F-150 was a piece of junk. It was a lemon. It had all kinds of little issues with it. In fact, I did 2 videos on it. I'll put a link to them up here if you want to check them out. But the final straw was the transmission started jerking. Like I'd put it in park and you get a little, just a little jerk when it shifted into park. And then we were in Terre Haute one night doing some shopping, and every time I pulled into a parking spot and got out, you just smelled rubber burning. And I thought, I am not dealing with this. I was working 60 hours a week at the time. I didn't have time to drop it off at a dealership or anything like that. I said, I am getting rid of this truck. So I did. I traded it in on this thing. And this has been a good truck. I mean, I love driving it. It's probably the best driving truck I've ever had. But looking back, I would have never got rid of that F-250. It was paid for. It only had like 40-some thousand miles on it. And I think about how much money I would have saved just keeping that truck. I would have got me something cheaper to drive, because it only got like 13 miles to the gallon. And so driving that 62-mile round trip to work and back, that was tough on the pocketbook. And I did, before I went with the F-150, I was looking at those little Ford Maverick trucks, and I really liked them. But that was when the dealerships had lost their minds, and they were going retail plus maybe $2,000, $2,500 over retail on them. I don't know what they call it, a dealer's premium or something. No, I didn't want no part of that. But that's crazy to think about. That was a 2018 F-250 I got for $38,000. You couldn't buy that truck now. In fact, when I traded it in 22, I got what I had originally paid for it. There had been no depreciation, just because the prices had skyrocketed since then. This was, I might have the sticker in the glove box. Let's see how much this was. I know it was over 50. Yeah, here it is. Oh, actually it's 60,000. I know I didn't pay that much for it, but it was close to, it was 50-some thousand. Base price is 46, then it's got all this. This is a backcountry It's a Bighorn package. It's got a bunch of extra gobbledygook on it. Speaking of 60,000, that's the average new truck price now in 25. Like I said, this is a 22. And in 22, this was a pretty nice truck. But that's crazy to think about. The average new truck price is $60,000. The average new car price is over $50,000. That just blows my mind. I think I paid $25,000 for my first house, and that was a nice little 2-bedroom, 1-bath. I read something the other day where the average car payment in 25 is $766. That's a lot of money. And then you have the ownership costs. I think I read this on NerdWallet. Since 2019, the cost of ownership, which includes gas, maintenance, licensing, insurance, things like that, has gone up 43% just since 2019. So not only you have that huge car payment, then everything else has gone up almost half. I don't know how people do it. But I fell into that trap too. I thought I needed a new vehicle. Even when I was young and dumb, I thought I needed a new vehicle. I bought my first one in, I think it was 1988. I bought a new F-150. Had no business buying a truck like that, even though it was probably only 10 grand, I think. It might have been just under 10 grand. I bought that truck here in Indiana, and then I moved to Florida that next year, and it took me a while to find a decent job, and I got behind on payments. And so instead of selling it because I was getting upside down on the loan, I ended up trading it in for a little Ford Ranger, just an XL, nothing fancy, just something to drive to work. That was the only way I could find to get out of that high payment on the F-150 at the time. So I've had 3 new trucks when I was young and dumb, the F-150 and then 2 Ford Rangers. The Ranger I traded in for the F-150, I ended up upgrading to a nice little Ranger XLT at one time. And I drove that truck for years. I think it had over 200,000 on it. And then I got a 2002 Dodge Dakota, which was the same deal. I drove the wheels off that thing. I think I had that maybe 12 years, something like that. And that was until 2018 when I bought the F-250. But I was making good money, and I paid $38,000 for that F-250. So, I mean, that was easy to afford. And that's another thing. They make it so damn easy, these dealerships do, and the finance companies. I mean, you can walk in and sign your name. Even if you have halfway decent credit, you just walk in and sign your name and you're out the door with a new truck. And then you get that payment book, or hell, it's done online now, but used to, you get that payment book in the mail and it'd be like that thick. Then you're thinking, what the hell did I do? And I know that used trucks are almost as bad as new trucks anymore, but at least you don't have that initial loss like you do on a new truck with the used truck. They say that they lose about 20% of their value in the first year. So say you find a good deal on a new truck for 50 grand. Well, 1 year in and it's already down to a $40,000 truck. And then by the time you pay it off in 5 years, it's down to like $20,000 truck. And that's if you go with a 60-month loan. I mean, hell, there's 84 and there's probably longer loans than that now. I mean, if they're going to make 50-year mortgages, what are they going to do on new trucks? I try not to second guess everything, but looking back, I should have kept that 2018 F-250. That was a good truck. Nothing wrong with it at all. I should have kept that. Got me a smaller truck to drive to work or just for everyday driving, and then kept the big one to pull the boat and things like that. I think about how much money I could have been stacking instead of dealing with these new trucks. And I probably could have got out of the rat race maybe 3 years sooner, maybe at 55 instead of 58. I mean, that's 3 years of your life. I give up to drive a new truck. And hell, I've been retired 2 weeks now, and I've drove this thing maybe 3 times. I'm really second guessing on if I needed a new truck or not. And if you're a young guy or gal out there and think you need the newest and shiniest and brightest thing that's come along, believe me, you don't. Unless you just want to be forever stuck in that rat race. You know, I looked at the stats a little bit before I made this video, and if I was just guessing the way everybody complains about the costs of everything and nobody's got any money, I thought that new car sales would be down, but no. For 24, they were 4% higher than 23, even though the costs are through the roof. Now, I don't want to get into the argument on which is better because every one of them's got issues. When I was researching them in 22, when I ended up ordering that new F-150, I thought I wanted a Tundra. Well, that was the first year they come out with a twin turbo, and they were having some major issues with them. Same way I like those GMC AT4s. They were having some issues at the time. And then I had all those issues with the F-150, which is ridiculous. I mean, the quality control on these things is just gone in the toilet. This Ram 1500, the quality control was a lot better on it than that F-150. There was just all kinds of little stupid things wrong with that F-150 that just made me mad at Ford at the time. So if I was to give any advice, and again, this is a do as I say, not as I do, but I would definitely buy used if I went back and did it all over again. And I would be patient about it, because if you just take your time and look around, every once in a while, one of these vehicles is going to pop up that maybe an older guy had, and it's got low miles, nothing wrong with it. I mean, they're out there. They're hard to find, but they are out there. So forget about these $60, $80, $100,000 new trucks. They are not worth it. So I guess that's enough of my belly aching for one day. If you're new here, my name is Troy. I'm 58 years old, and I'm 2 weeks into my early retirement. So if you want to follow along, please hit subscribe. We'll catch you later. Why didn't anybody tell me that it rains every day when you're retired? Jeez.